Hello everyone, Ross here at Teacher Toolkit. I'm going to try and record about a 10-15 minute quick signpost webinar. Put this on YouTube because I know the length of the video is restricted. So this is take 2. I've just recorded it for 30 minutes and it hasn't worked. So I'm going to try it again. Thanks for purchasing the resource. My intention is to share the research, the methodology, the tools used, its findings, and then send you all the slides so you can adapt the content, look at the research with my take on how it evolved. So you can edit the slides, upskill your own practice, or perhaps present the content back in your own work setting. So the plan is, so I'll just take you through the slides. I'll kind of once or twice set the slides to presentation mode. You've got on here the 5 stages I want to go through. The getting started part, I'm going to add another webinar, which is essentially how time poor teachers can actually conduct action research in their classroom. So I'm just going to set the scene. Here's a little story for you to begin with. Once upon a time, there was a school not too far away from where you work. Every week they'd mark books. One day they discovered that verbal feedback was more immediate because essentially they were marking night and day. So they decided to stop marking. And because of that, they significantly reduced teacher workload. And as a result, not only did the pupils complete more work, but the teachers were more focused in their classrooms. It led to better outcomes from the kids, and the teachers were much happier. The end. Now that's a true story. And there's a school not too far away from you if you're watching in England. So they're all in the research. A school closest to me, not in the research, is a school in northwest London. So if you're interested, their English department, for example, even up to year 11, do not mark books. Now, one thing I want to stipulate before I get started is this research is not to abolish written marking. It has a place. And verbal feedback is not just speaking to kids. It's a range of strategies. So I want to go through those for you. Now what I want to do, I'm just going to expand my slides here. You'll soon see in a moment once this loads up. This is a workload survey that I always conduct with teachers I meet face to face. So what you've got on here is a question about workload. Now I've asked this to teachers, about 20,000 teachers face to face. So when I went to present this to a group the other day, I asked them the same question, and you can see marking came up as their biggest bugbear. Now, I've been researching this for a good 5+ years, if not longer, to try and tackle the myths. I also asked them about what they believe to be the strengths of head teachers today, the challenges that head teachers face. You can see their responses. So I'm going to show you the results shortly. Teacher confidence. So SEN, and teachers, what teachers find challenging. So we've got behaviour. So I'll pop back out the slides. So I do a bit of surveying. If I just start with the research I've been conducting, so there's tons of stuff out there, and I'm just going to signpost things that I've been reading. This is from TeacherTapp. Now, TeacherTapp is an application on your phone. It sends 3 questions every day. By Weatherhall, I forget the chap's first name, Laura McInerney, and Professor Becky Allen. Great little tool. So you can see here the green bar. If you're working in a more deprived setting, then you're more likely that your school will say mark by a coloured pen and once a week, for example. A colleague I have at Cambridge, so I'm doing my own doctorate looking at teacher workload and teacher agency. She's compared, so Jude Brady's compared the differences between state school teachers and independent school teachers. And both teachers she discovered, so 1,000+ interviews, she discovered they both work in excess of 55 hours a week just to keep up with the day job during term time. But the difference was state school teachers were asked to complete meaningless tasks, so things like gathering evidence, triple marking, those types of things. Other things I've been looking at, so the differences between teacher workload from 2016 to 19. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see here the biggest shifts in teacher workload. But interestingly, this dark blue area, you can see schools that have tackled looking at marking and 23% said it's got better, but 25%, yes, we've looked at it, but actually the new policies made things worse. Research on teacher workload hours, so 45 is an average. You can see here, I don't believe this, you probably don't too, but apparently teachers are working fewer hours. Other things to signpost, the Ofsted myths. Surprised how few teachers know about this. So very popular page on the Ofsted website. I wonder why in some respects. But point 3, if your school is going to have a marking or a teaching assessment policy, which is not statutory, by the way, then Ofsted will test it. So you've got to be careful not to set yourself up to fail. So my advice is have something, but make it a CPD strategy and keep it behind the scenes for your own teacher training sessions. Okay, so on my travels, I'm going to skip a few slides. So I think I've been to about 170 schools. My data that I collected through lots of interviews, about 10,000 bits of data. Head teachers are confident with mental health, curriculum teaching, but they struggle with research and assessment, hence maybe verbal feedback. Teacher challenges, it's managing their own health, children's health, and their confidence, they lack their confidence with managing their own well-being and managing research. Now, one thing just for this slide, pause my video and just ask yourself, where does your school currently sit on this grid? This is a snapshot of what I think I've seen on my travels. And I would probably just add one thing. You need a small dose of accountability to achieve autonomy. And it's quite hard for schools to keep in this middle area. Okay, the projects. So how are we doing for time? I go through lots of things. My frustrations as a DT teacher, the etymology of the word assessment, not many people know it means to sit beside. How the research started, so me putting a call out on Twitter, getting 110 schools, essentially UCL funded it. I got 7 schools. The brief was disadvantaged schools. So here you've got the demographics. Here is the research question they spent a day agreeing on. We also had to define the word engagement. Some images of us all working. The research framework. So we asked the question, do learning walks improve teachers, for example? We investigate current practice, then innovate our own, and then we make a tentative claim and come back and reflect. So 5 days together over the year. There's a screenshot here. Just pause the video and read what the teacher said. The toolkit section, the tools largely come from my 3rd book, Mark Plan Teach. So all the ideas that I've been blogging about for a long time, things like the yellow box, live market in the class, visualizers, mantras, I do, we do, you do, the whole class feedback sheets. I have a pile of 30 books. I don't mark them. I annotate this sheet based on what I see, and I use this to sit beside the children. EdTech tools, the question matrix, I use this as a script in class. I give it to a teaching assistant, kids put post-it notes on it. The research in the paper, so I'm not going to go through it all. You can see what teachers chose. So they all agreed with the same question, but they all chose a range of their own strategies. The verbal feedback reports here. So here it is, 25 pages. Print a copy off for your leadership team. Make sure you discuss it at a training session. Then all the practical ideas are in the toolkit. So there's the hyperlink. It needs a capital VFF to work. Now, again, skimming over this quickly, here are all the teachers' definitions of the word engagement. Again, this was a day's work. You then have what the teachers, so 13 teachers in 7 schools, said they found the most in their collection of data. Interestingly, when they reduced written feedback, you'll see here grades went up, no detrimental impact on progress, and so on and so forth. This is my own personal takeaway. This slide here, it has to be structured, it has to be routine, but when it's accompanied with a reduction or a removal of written feedback, it doesn't have a negative impact on kids' attainment. Now, to finish off, there's a couple of slides about how you can use a script. So this comes from Leverage Leadership. So this is my last point. It follows this simple methodology. On this slide, you've got something that you can follow in a bit more detail. With practice, after the first attempt might take 10 minutes, but with practice, when you're having the same conversation with people every week, 3 or 4 minutes. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm talking to Ross in the classroom. So number one, Ross, really good work today. I'm a bit concerned. Why do you keep calling out? So I'm now on to probe. I discover Ross doesn't understand. He missed last lesson. Someone next to him disturbing him. I then identify 2 or 3 problems and then 2 or 3 solutions. And this might take a 2 or 3 minute conversation. And then I plan ahead what we're going to do. So I might suggest, so do you want me to say to the class, don't call out before I raise a question to remind you not to call out, for example? Would it help if I move your seats? Whatever it is, do we want to do it today, next lesson? And the lock it in is affirmation. I get the student to repeat back to me what they're going to do before I get them back into the class. And this would work well also with a written piece of work. There's a great poster here from the decision book. Where does your feedback sit? Ideally, it needs to be in the top right. A suggestion: how could, imagine if, describe to me, those types of questions, rather than a compliment, which is only good for my ego, or a criticism, which is emotional and I'm not going to listen to the positives, I'm just going to take the negatives. And then 3 great coaching tools: miracle question, imagine if; exception questions. If I say all the boys don't shut up, you should say, well, all the boys. I'll just say, no, it's Ross and so and so. Well, every lesson, no, just on a Monday period 2, so you narrow. And then the scaling, just imagine a grid 0 to 10. You just ask someone to choose where are they on the scale in terms of their performance, and ask them to articulate one next step forward. So I'm conscious, it's a short little tutorial. You're going to get all the slides, the PDFs, edit the slides how you want. Please read the research, and I hope the little video that I've put on here allows you just to understand the research and hear me describe it a little bit more. If you've got any questions, send them over to support@teachertoolkit.co.uk, and thanks for watching.